Hey everyone, welcome back. In Renegade Immortal episode 147, we are going to see Wang Lin quietly take control of an entire cultivation planet, push his cultivation all the way to the peak of the late Ascendant stage, and then make his move for the Thunder Celestial Realm by seizing a thunder furnace for himself. But the bigger question is, what kind of new power does Wang Lin gain before entering the Thunder Celestial Realm? And just a quick note, this recap is based on the novel, so when the official Donghua adapts this part, some scenes may be a little different. Also, if we can hit 300 likes on this video, it would really help a lot. Alright, now without wasting any more time, let's begin. After taking Shengong Hu, a cultivator at the peak of the corporeal Yang stage, under his command, Wang Lin also managed to force back Zhang Konglai, who was in the same realm. With that matter settled, his attention immediately shifted to the next major step, preparing for the opening of the Thunder Celestial Realm. From Shengong Hu, Wang Lin had already learned that the Thunder Celestial Realm would open in 10 years, and he had no intention of missing that opportunity. His goal was clear: enter the Thunder Celestial Realm, absorb celestial jades, and use that chance to break into the second step of cultivation. But before that could happen, there was one thing he needed to do first. He had to find a hidden place where he could quietly raise his strength. Not long after, Wang Lin arrived outside an aqua-blue cultivation planet. Mortals thrived there, generation after generation, and the vitality of the world was extremely rich. At first glance, the scenery did not seem especially unique, but the spiritual aura drifting between heaven and earth carried a feeling that struck Wang Lin deeply. It was astonishingly similar to the aura of Planet Suzaku, a place engraved into his very bones. That sense of familiarity, like a memory from another lifetime, stirred something in him. In the next moment, he transformed into a streak of light, tore through the void, pierced the planet's thin atmosphere, and descended onto this cultivation world known as Planet Qing Ling. The moment he arrived, Wang Lin swept his divine sense across the entire planet and immediately grasped its overall strength. The strongest cultivators here had only reached the nascent soul stage. There was not even a single soul formation expert on the whole planet. The spiritual energy of this place had long grown thin and weak, leaving cultivation clans scattered among mortal nations like isolated stars. Every family was confined to its own territory, and for these low-level cultivators, even finding a path to break through was incredibly difficult. Wang Lin had no interest in hiding his presence. He directly chose the highest mountain on the planet, Hangyun Peak, as the place where he would settle down. This mountain had once been the location where a nascent soul cultivator of the Zhang family entered seclusion and eventually died. Over countless years, the death aura gathered there had completely erased the mountain's former beauty. All that remained now was a bleak, cold, and desolate atmosphere. It was almost like a symbol of the fate of low-level cultivators, people who struggled their whole lives only to end in silence when their lifespan ran out. At that very moment, Zhang Xinhai, the head of the Zhang family, was dragging his body filled with death aura up the mountain one step at a time. He had come to complete his own final ritual before death, but when he reached the summit, he encountered a scene that shattered everything he knew. There, standing with his back to the mountain, was a young man dressed in white. Zhang Xinhai instinctively sent out his divine sense to probe him, but what he sensed was absolute emptiness. It was as if no one was standing there at all. And yet, with his own eyes, he could clearly see Wang Lin's figure right in front of him. The terrifying contrast between what he saw and what his divine sense perceived made his heart tremble instantly. Zhang Xinhai had never encountered a cultivator of this level before. In that moment, he understood that the way this person looked at him was probably no different from how an ordinary mortal would be viewed. Wang Lin did not even turn around. He simply looked toward the setting sun on the horizon and calmly remarked that this place was not bad. Then, with a trace of pity in his tone, he said that it was a shame such a mountain had been turned into a graveyard. As soon as his words fell, he casually waved his right hand. In an instant, the death aura that had accumulated on Hangyun Peak for countless years vanished without a trace. The entire mountain seemed to revive on the spot. The withered and lifeless terrain was suddenly filled with rich vitality, and fresh life force surged through every part of it. That one effortless display completely shattered Zhang Xinhai's composure. He dropped to his knees immediately and bowed with the utmost respect. In his panic and awe, he offered not only Hangyun Peak, but even declared that if Wang Lin wished, the entire Planet Qing Ling could be handed over. But Wang Lin had no intention of simply using brute force to take what he wanted. He told Zhang Xinhai that changing fate and defying the heavens was never easy, yet he could still use his own spiritual energy to extend Zhang Xinhai's life by another 10 years. As he performed that act, Wang Lin could not help but feel a quiet sigh in his heart. This was a spell he had only barely grasped after catching a glimpse of the third step. And if he had possessed such a method back in the past, then perhaps Li Muan would not have needed to remain sheltered inside the heaven-defying bead. That thought flashed through him only for a moment, but it revealed something important. Beneath Wang Lin's cold and hardened exterior, that trace of softness had never truly disappeared. Of course, Wang Lin was not extending Zhang Xinhai's life out of pure kindness. Granting lifespan was the favor, and what came next was the command. He gave Zhang Xinhai 10 years and ordered him to gather the resentment of all mortals across the entire world. If the task was completed properly, Wang Lin promised that the Zhang family's bloodline would never be extinguished. Then, with a sweep of his sleeve, he sent Zhang Xinhai back down the mountain. The gesture looked casual, but it carried a majesty that left no room for disobedience. After Zhang Xinhai departed, Wang Lin immediately began making arrangements. He brought out the 1 billion soul flag and used it to suppress the mountain peak. Then he struck backward with his right hand, opening a cave dwelling directly within the mountain. Right after that, his divine sense spread out like thunder across the entire planet, and he announced that everything within a 5,000-kilometer radius of Hengyun Peak was now a forbidden zone. From that moment onward, Planet Qing Ling had a new master. Wang Lin did not need to slaughter anyone to prove it. A single wave of divine sense covering the entire planet was enough to make every cultivator tremble. No one dared to even entertain the thought of rebellion. Just like that, in the middle of his endless journey through the stars, Wang Lin set down a foothold and made Qing Ling his own cultivation planet. The next 8 years on Planet Qing Ling passed in 2 completely different atmospheres. At the foot of Hengyun Peak, the cultivators were so busy that their feet almost never touched the ground. But on the mountain itself, Wang Lin remained seated at the summit in complete seclusion, focusing entirely on cultivation and treasure refinement. And during that time, he also casually reminded one particularly troublesome spirit exactly who was in charge, Su Ligua. For the first 5 years, Zhang Xinhai did not dare hide even the slightest thing. He personally informed every cultivation family on the planet of Wang Lin's order to collect mortal resentment, and he himself took the lead as Wang Lin's representative. Cultivators from all across Qing Ling moved among the mortal populations every single day, gathering resentment bit by bit. The problem was that while this aura existed in almost every mortal, the number of mortals on the planet was simply too vast. Even after 5 full years of effort, they had managed to collect less than 40% of what was needed. Zhang Xinhai grew increasingly anxious. In the end, he personally joined the work and even mobilized every member of the Zhang family above the 5th layer of qi condensation, but even with that, the progress remained painfully slow. Wang Lin, however, was completely unconcerned about the pace of the collection. For those same 5 years, he sat atop Hengyun Peak restoring and refining the treasures in his possession. The mountain and river screen had suffered severe damage, so he used his thunder-wrapped origin soul to patch it back together little by little. The celestial mountain had developed cracks, making the extraction of souls unstable, so Wang Lin slowly refined it with the power of his origin soul to repair those flaws as well. Then there was the strange crown fused with red butterfly's blue rose. He studied that treasure for a long time, yet even after repeated examination, he still could not fully see through its mysteries. And in the gaps between repairing these 3 treasures, Wang Lin took out another magical treasure that had been with him for a long time, the Soul Lasher. This whip had accompanied him through many battles, but in the past Wang Lin had never considered it particularly important. In terms of intelligence, it was nowhere near the Celestial Sword or the Half-Moon Blade. In terms of defense, it could not compare to the 1 billion soul flag or the mountain and river screen. And when it came to unique abilities, it fell short of the Celestial Mountain and the God-slaying War Chariot. So for a very long time, the Soul Lasher had simply existed as an ordinary magical treasure among many others. But now things were different. After touching the threshold of the 3rd step, Wang Lin's understanding had changed. His domain was gradually shifting from the life and death domain toward the karma domain, and because of that, when he looked at the Soul Lasher again, he saw it from an entirely different perspective. He suddenly realized that the whip's ability to directly extract a person's origin soul perfectly matched the source of karma and Tao. The physical body could be seen as karmic cause, while the origin soul represented karmic effect. And the Soul Lasher just happened to target that exact connection, the side of effect. In other words, this treasure was almost naturally aligned with the latter half of the karma Tao. The moment Wang Lin understood this, an idea immediately formed in his mind. His karma domain was still too shallow to condense a true physical manifestation like the underworld river. Since he could not yet do that, then he would take another path. He decided to merge his karma domain into the soul lasher itself, and let the whip become the embodiment of that domain. If successful, it would not only greatly increase the whip's power, but it would also give him another important trump card before entering the Thunder Celestial realm. For any other cultivator, this kind of move would have been far too dangerous. They would never dare merge their own comprehension into a treasure like this, fearing it would interfere with their understanding of their path. But Wang Lin was different. He could already see the road toward the third step far more clearly than ordinary cultivators, and because he understood the risks, he also knew they were manageable. So without hesitation, he placed the soul lasher across his lap and began refining it. That process alone took another 3 years. For 8 straight years, Wang Lin never once stepped down from Hengyun Peak, and aside from Zhang Xinhai, no one had ever seen his true face. Even so, the title of Ancestor of Planet Qing Ling grew heavier and heavier in the hearts of every cultivator on the planet. Thick black fog constantly surrounded the outside of Hengyun Peak. Any cultivator reckless enough to intrude would be completely devoured by the fog, leaving behind nothing but shrill screams. Yet if an ordinary mortal wandered in by mistake, they would only fall unconscious before being safely sent back out. That difference made everyone understand something very clearly. Beneath Wang Lin's terrifying prestige, there was still a line he would not cross. He did not slaughter without reason, and that only made the people of Qing Ling fear and revere him even more. The only thing that disrupted the mountain's silence was Su Ligua. Somehow, this devil managed to break the seal inside the bag of holding, and although he still couldn't escape completely, he shouted and caused trouble from inside it every single day. He kept boasting that he was no longer the same as before, claiming he had grown powerful enough to switch places with Wang Lin and become the master instead. At first, Wang Lin ignored him because he had no time to waste on such nonsense. But Su Ligua only became more and more outrageous the longer he was left alone, until Wang Lin finally told him to come out. The instant Su Ligua emerged, he acted as arrogantly as ever. He transformed himself into a massive sword carrying ancient sword intent and charged straight toward Wang Lin, as if he truly intended to challenge him. Wang Lin, however, did not even bother to stand. The soul lasher resting on his lap suddenly flew up by itself, linking together end to end and instantly forming a ring of karma. In the next moment, the giant sword collapsed and scattered apart. Su Ligua's body of black mist started to dissipate on the spot. That was enough to break all of his arrogance. He immediately turned cowardly, crying out for mercy in the most miserable way possible, even trying to argue that Wang Lin himself had turned him into a devil and therefore should bear the karmic responsibility. Wang Lin only gave a faint smile and calmly told him that this was Su Ligua's karma, not his. This little farce was not just another classic moment of Su Ligua getting himself beaten after acting too bold. It was also a real demonstration of just how terrifying Wang Lin's karma domain had become. And finally, by the 10th year of Wang Lin's rule over Planet Qing Ling, the decade-long task of gathering mortal resentment at the foot of Hengyun Peak was at last nearing its end. On the surface, Wang Lin's days on the mountain looked like nothing more than quiet seclusion and peaceful cultivation. For the previous 2 years, Wang Lin had been putting almost all of his focus into refining his spells. The more he studied them, the more he realized that although the Finger of Death, the Demonic Finger, and the Underworld Finger were all powerful techniques, each of them carried fundamental flaws. Those flaws might not matter much in ordinary combat, but in the long run, they would become obstacles on his path toward the third step. Because of that, Wang Lin began trying to improve them according to the direction of the third step that he had only barely glimpsed. This was an incredibly difficult task. To put it simply, what he was doing was trying to deduce the original celestial spell hidden behind the versions he currently possessed. Even top second step cultivators like the All-Seer would have a hard time accomplishing something like this. Wang Lin had to burn through an enormous amount of mental energy over and over again, polishing the spells repeatedly. Although he still had not completely finished the process, every deduction and every correction caused his own domain to become more condensed and more profound. Even so, life on the mountain was far from lonely. The Thunder Beast and the Thunder Toad were naturally hostile to one another, so every day the two of them would glare at each other from a distance and compete as if they were trying to prove who was superior. The Mosquito Beast, on the other hand, had only one obsession. It constantly wanted to climb onto the Thunder Beast's back. Every single time it tried, it was chased away, and every single time it still refused to give up. But among all the noisy creatures on Hengyun Peak, the one who caused the most trouble was still Su Ligua. Seeing that Wang Lin was fully occupied with improving his spells and had no time to manage him, Su Ligua gradually became bolder and bolder. What started as cheerful wandering around slowly escalated into sneaking all the way to the edge of the black fog. There, he would deliberately scare visiting cultivators and play tricks on them, to the point where he practically turned himself into the ghost legend of the outer perimeter of Hangyun Peak. Just when Su Ligua was getting so bored that he was practically about to grow mold, Zhang Xinhai finally arrived once again at the foot of the mountain, this time bringing his son with him. 10 years of rushing around to complete Wang Lin's order had nearly exhausted the old man's remaining lifespan. His body was once again filled with death aura, and he looked even more withered than before. But despite that, he had truly completed the task. He had gathered the mortal resentment of the entire planet. Before Wang Lin, 1,000 jades were laid out, and the resentment sealed inside them was so thick that it almost condensed into a storm of resentful aura. This trip was not only for reporting the completion of the mission. Zhang Xinhai had another purpose as well. He wanted to introduce his son to Wang Lin as his successor, hoping to leave behind a stable connection to this terrifying senior and create a long-term safeguard for the Zhang family's future, so that their bloodline inheritance could continue forever. Wang Lin was very satisfied with the result. On the spot, he approved Zhang Xinhai's son as the new outer messenger. He even gave him a medicinal pill and clearly stated that if the young man's talent was sufficient, this pill would slightly increase his chances of one day reaching the soul formation stage. On top of that, Wang Lin also took out seeds of the celestial ascension fruit and handed them over to the Zhang family for cultivation, while establishing a long-term rule that resentment would continue to be collected every few years from then on. But before Zhang Xinhai's audience was even fully over, another small disturbance happened. Su Ligua, who had been restless for ages, secretly lured Zhang Xinhai's son into the black fog and then possessed his physical body just for fun, finally satisfying his craving for flesh for a while. Of course, there was no way such a petty trick could escape Wang Lin's notice. Su Ligua was immediately punished and restricted to a 1,000-foot radius, wearing the expression of someone who felt deeply wronged but still didn't dare to disobey or sneak away again. After dealing with that little interlude, Wang Lin began absorbing the massive amount of mortal resentment that had been gathered over 10 years. He poured all of it into his underworld river, causing the soul of the underworld river to gradually begin taking shape. With that, the power of his Tao rose to another level. Then, under his continued focus and polishing, another 8 years quietly passed by. By the 18th year since Wang Lin first descended upon Planet Qing Ling, his life and death domain had finally become completely perfect. There was no flaw left in it at all. At that point, the only thing he still lacked was enough celestial spiritual energy to support it. Once he obtained that, he would be able to truly set foot at the peak of the first step of cultivation. And that was no longer a distant dream, because he still had celestial jades and celestial liquid remaining inside his bag of holding. A breakthrough had already become inevitable. The only problem was that Wang Lin had not forgotten the divine retribution he had experienced when he first reached the Ascendant stage. That memory was still vivid in his mind. He knew very clearly that the road of a heaven-defying cultivator had never once been smooth. The next time he attempted to break through the first step and step into the Illusory Yin stage, another divine retribution would definitely be waiting for him, and this time he would once again have to face heavenly might head-on. Once his domain was fully complete, Wang Lin no longer hesitated and immediately began his attempt to break through to the peak of the first step of cultivation, the peak of the late Ascendant stage. For this, he chose the northwestern desert of Planet Qing Ling. There, he set up a giant formation using celestial jades and seated himself at its center. As he breathed in and cultivated, each breath extracted an enormous amount of celestial spiritual energy from the formation, continuously pushing his cultivation higher and higher. In truth, many Ascendant cultivators spend their entire lives unable to reach this peak. The thing that blocks them is usually not their domain, nor the lack of celestial jades, but origin energy. If a cultivator enters the Ascendant stage without enough origin energy fused into their origin soul, then even if they manage to step into that realm, they will never be able to reach its peak. And if the origin soul is injured during cultivation and some of that precious origin energy is lost, then reaching the peak becomes even more impossible. The cruel part is that Ascendant cultivators cannot simply absorb origin energy from the world to recover it. Because of that, the number of people capable of reaching this level is pitifully small. Wang Lin, however, was different. Back in the Thunder Lake, he had already cultivated his origin energy to the absolute limit that his origin soul could hold. His foundation was unbelievably solid. What he lacked was not origin energy, but only enough celestial spiritual energy to completely fill his cultivation and push it to completion. The celestial jade formation ran for an entire year, and all the celestial jades Wang Lin had reserved were gradually drained dry and reduced to dust. Without any hesitation, he then drank the celestial liquid he had prepared. The mellow celestial spiritual energy surged through his body like a flood, violently pushing his cultivation upward toward the final peak of the late Ascendant stage. Finally, by the 19th year and 8th month since Wang Lin first arrived on Planet Qing Ling, he firmly stepped into the peak of the late Ascendant stage. The moment his breakthrough completed, the effects spread far beyond the formation itself. Across the countless kilometers of desert outside, patches of grass suddenly began to grow, and the dead, barren land was once again filled with life. Wang Lin had cultivated for a full 1,000 years. He had started as nothing more than a small disciple of the Hangyu sect, an insignificant little cultivator, and now he had reached the peak of the first step. He had truly walked that entire path step by step until this very moment. After stabilizing his cultivation, Wang Lin took out a celestial brush and drew an 8-stroke rune. Compared to the previous 7-stroke rune, this one was on an entirely higher level. At this point, both his origin soul and his domain had become flawless. Half a month later, Wang Lin mounted the Thunder Beast, transformed into a bolt of thunder, and left Planet Qing Ling. As he departed, cultivators all across the planet looked up toward the sky to watch him go. Their hearts were full of respect, but at the same time, they also quietly relaxed. For nearly 20 years, the invisible pressure of Wang Lin's existence had weighed over the entire planet like a mountain. Now, with his departure, that pressure finally lifted. Still, Wang Lin had not abandoned Qing Ling entirely. Before leaving, he harvested the celestial ascension fruits that had been cultivated there for many years and also took away the newly gathered resentment jades. The soul of the underworld river had already shown signs of awakening, and once he headed into the Thunder Celestial Realm in the future, this planet would still remain one of his caves and a stable base of operation. To enter the Thunder Celestial Realm, one thing was absolutely indispensable: the Thunder Furnace. All the Thunder Furnaces of the All-Heaven star system were stored inside the Thunder Celestial Temple and distributed to different cultivation families according to a fixed allocation. Wang Lin could have gone directly to Xingong Hu and asked him to provide one, but he was worried that too much contact might expose his identity. In the end, he chose the simplest and most direct method possible. He would steal one. The place he selected was Planet Zhengtan in the southern domain of the All-Heaven star system. The two cultivation families on that planet were not especially strong. Their highest expert had only reached the peak of the late Ascendant stage, making them the perfect target for Wang Lin's plan. 1 month before the Thunder Celestial Realm was set to open, the returning procession carrying the Thunder Furnace finally appeared. More than 10 streaks of light crossed the sky, and leading them was a silver-haired old man who had only recently stepped into the Illusory Yin stage. The moment the old man saw Wang Lin, his eyes lit up, and he immediately concluded that Wang Lin was a fake messenger from the Thunder Celestial Temple. He shouted to expose him on the spot, and his laughter carried an obvious trace of arrogance. Wang Lin had no interest in wasting time with him. Without another word, he directly released the Celestial Guard puppet. The golden figure stepped forward and threw a punch, and a massive wave of sonic booms instantly erupted. That single strike forced back the old man who had just entered the second step and even shattered his flame shield. But even after taking that blow, the old man still found it difficult to swallow his pride. He was unwilling to simply hand over a thunder furnace to someone who was only at the peak of the late Ascendant stage. Wang Lin immediately escalated. He brought out the Celestial Mountain and drew out strands of mountain soul, condensing them into a cloud of mist. This was a soul extraction technique that should have belonged only to second-step cultivators, and the old man's expression changed dramatically the moment he saw it. Driven into a corner, he activated the third eye between his brows. A red light swept out and instantly destroyed more than half of the mountain soul. But the old man's foundation in origin energy was too shallow. He could only maintain the technique for 3 breaths before it became difficult to continue. Wang Lin instantly followed up by throwing out a real bolt of thunder. At that point, the old man could no longer block the attack and hurriedly took out the thunder furnace, raising it up to surrender. But after obtaining the thunder furnace, Wang Lin still did not leave. Instead, his attention shifted to the old man's family's inherited third eye spell. He proposed an exchange, offering other spells in return. At first, the old man took a hard stance. He bluntly stated that he had already handed over the Thunder Furnace and had no intention of passing down his family's inherited technique to an outsider. Wang Lin did not rush him at all. Calmly, he began revealing one bargaining chip after another. The first spell he showed was the Finger of Death. Black light swept across the plain, draining away vitality and causing all vegetation in its path to instantly wither. The second was the Demonic Finger, a technique capable of transforming celestial spiritual energy into demonic energy. And when used together with the Finger of Death, the destructive effect became even more terrifying. The old man verbally dismissed both of them as worthless, but inwardly he was already deeply shocked by how overbearing these spells were. Even so, he still forced himself to maintain his posture and refused to give in. Then Wang Lin revealed his true trump card, the Celestial Slaughter Art. He told the old man that this technique had been learned from a Nirvana Shatterer senior. It was a spell that accumulated life seals through slaughter energy, and the more life seals one possessed, the stronger the defensive power would become. According to legend, if someone could gather 1 trillion life seals, then even if an entire cultivation planet collapsed, they would still remain safe and unharmed. This finally struck the old man where it mattered most. The more he examined the technique, the more shocked he became. And when he saw Wang Lin already turning around on the Thunder Beast as if he were about to leave, he finally could not hold back any longer. Gritting his teeth, he stopped Wang Lin and agreed to exchange the family's third eye spell for the Finger of Death, the Demonic Finger, and the Celestial Slaughter Art. But during this transaction, both sides were carrying their own schemes. The old man secretly inserted several altered cultivation methods into the Jade Slip, hoping to trick Wang Lin with hidden flaws. Wang Lin accepted the Jade and, with his understanding of the path toward the third step, saw through the problems in an instant. Still, he simply nodded as if he had noticed nothing. In fact, he almost felt a little guilty for taking such an advantage, so before leaving, he even gave the old man one warning. He told him that the slaughter energy should never be allowed to exceed 100,000 strands, otherwise there could be great danger. After saying that, Wang Lin left quickly. In truth, the one who truly profited from the exchange was Wang Lin. The 3 spells he had traded away already had problems of their own to begin with. But the third eye spell he received in return was something entirely different. Hidden inside, it was a trace of returning to the origin, something that had already touched the threshold of the third step. The old man had treated it as nothing more than an ordinary inherited spell and simply did not recognize its true value. After returning to Planet Qing Ling, Wang Lin spent more than half a month studying the technique in seclusion. Before long, he corrected the flaws within the spell. Then, between his eyebrows, a faint crack slowly appeared, and from within it, an eerie red light began to shine.